How used are you to pretending that nothing is wrong, to smile and brush it off, to say, "I'm fine," to keep up with everything and at the same time be exhausted inside? Sometimes people tell you that you are strong, but even those words make you even more tired, because you didn't choose to be strong, you had to. And underneath this obligation, you carry a weight that you cannot tell anyone about. Even if everything seems normal on the outside, inside you have a tension, a tiredness that you cannot explain. Resentments you don't know why, quick tempers, sudden withdrawals. And even you sometimes feel alien to yourself, like something is wrong, but you can't even describe what is wrong. This video will trace those invisible wounds. With Carl Jung's approach, we will explore together how silent pain turns into behaviors, how it shapes you unnoticed. Because some people develop defenses to survive, but over time, these defenses turn into silent walls that isolate them. In this video, we'll talk about 10 signs of how emotional baggage seeps into your behavior without you noticing. If you often find yourself asking, "Why do I feel this way?" this video might just answer that question. If you're ready, just write "I'm ready" in the comments, because sometimes starting to understand ourselves starts with just a small intention. Let's get started. First sign: the need to stay in control may be your quiet way of staying safe. Some people always seem prepared. They remember the details, solve problems before they happen, keep everyone and everything in check. Not because they want to control things, but because something once taught them they had to. At some point they learned, if I don't stay ahead of everything, it might all fall apart. And slowly, this became second nature. Even in calm moments, their mind stays alert, always scanning, always bracing. For what? Even they might not know anymore. What started as a survival instinct became a personality. But there's a cost. Living like this drains the nervous system. It disconnects you from what you actually want. Life becomes something to manage, not something to feel. So here's something different. Don't force yourself to relax. Instead, pause. 3 times a day ask, what am I doing right now because I truly want to, and what am I doing just to stay in control? This one question starts to unravel the pattern. Let go of productivity. Invite alignment instead. When you stop trying to manage every moment, you may finally feel one. Second sign: kindness isn't always about care. It's sometimes about survival. You're the one everyone turns to. You notice the mood shifts. You step back when others need space. You listen so well that people forget to ask if you're okay. And over time, being the good one becomes your role. Not because you chose it, but because it kept things safe. Maybe you learned early on to scan the room for tension, to adjust yourself before others had to. And in doing so, you built your identity around harmony, even when it cost you your own peace. If you feel drained after helping, if you're always thinking about others but losing sight of yourself, this isn't just empathy, it's emotional overload. Here's what helps. Just 10 minutes a day. Sit quietly. Write down what you feel, not what you should feel, not what others feel, just you. It sounds small, but it's how you reclaim space inside your own life. And say no more often, not to be selfish, but to remember that you matter too. Real connection isn't about endless giving. It's about showing up for yourself just as much as you show up for others. Sometimes the softest act of love is making space for your own voice. Third sign: revised. Quietly wanting someone near can be a sign you're seeking a missing part of yourself. Have you ever found yourself repeatedly drawn to someone, not understanding exactly why their presence feels so comforting? It's as if, for a moment, that quiet emptiness inside you fades away. You might think you're simply enjoying their company, Yet deep down, you're unconsciously reaching for something you never truly had. Maybe a sense of safety, understanding, or acceptance you longed for in the past. This isn't about attachment or dependency. It's deeper. It often emerges from emotional needs unmet during critical times in your life. Maybe as a child your emotions were overlooked, or perhaps your feelings of loneliness weren't addressed. So now when you find someone who even remotely feels safe, your subconscious clings to them to fill those old voids. But here's the important part. No person can permanently fill a gap that's meant to be healed from within. If you feel that constant quiet pull towards someone, pause and ask yourself honestly, am I here because of genuine connection, or am I trying to heal an old wound through someone else? Acknowledging this can be uncomfortable, but it's also empowering. It signals the beginning of true healing. Take intentional steps to spend quality time alone, exploring your own emotions. Start simple. Journal about what comes up when you're by yourself, without distraction or the comfort of others. Real healing begins when you stop using someone else's presence as a bandage. Instead, gently confront what's missing within. Slowly, you'll find that the emptiness is not something someone else can or should fix. It's yours to heal, yours to nurture. When you learn to fulfill your emotional needs yourself, your connections with others become richer, more genuine, and less driven by hidden pain. That's when relationships stop being a quiet cry for help and start becoming true connections based on mutual understanding and genuine affection. The fourth sign, staying busy, can be your way of silencing the silent pain inside. Do you ever find yourself constantly doing something? Every moment is full. You are always finding new things to do. Maybe you are reorganizing the drawers at home. Maybe you are scheduling endless meetings. On the outside, you appear to be productive and energetic, but in reality, this behavior may be because you are not feeling a silent pain deep inside. This state of intensity is actually an unconscious defense mechanism to avoid facing your inner world. As soon as you stop, thoughts that you cannot silence begin to fill your mind. Regrets from the past, wounds that won't close, disappointments you can't forget. So busyness is not just a habit for you, but a way of avoiding confronting the pain that you suppress inside. But this strategy has a hidden danger in the long run. You become detached from yourself. When you are constantly on the move, after a while you forget what you are really feeling. Instead of recognizing and expressing your feelings, you postpone them, and over time, these postponed feelings reappear again and again as anxiety or meaningless unhappiness. The way out of this situation is to create small, meaningful pauses in your life. Try being alone with yourself, doing nothing, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. It may be difficult at first. Your mind may try to get you going again, but even these short moments will help you start to hear your inner voices again. As a next step, ask yourself this question: what is the real reason why I am always busy? With this question, you will start to reconnect with your true feelings, and you will see, perhaps for the first time, that what you are running away from cannot actually harm you, but will continue to take energy from you as long as you don't confront it. True peace comes from hearing and understanding your inner voice, not suppressing it. And sometimes the biggest change in your life starts with those small moments when you can stop and really listen to yourself. Sign 5. Your obsession with success may feel like the only way to feel worthwhile. Do you feel like you have to do more and more? Even if you feel happy for a while about your achievements, does the question, "What's next?" arise in your heart? This relentless desire for progress is often not dissatisfaction, but a masked need to be recognized. In your childhood or at some point in your life, perhaps you learned, I am valuable only if I am useful, only if I accomplish something. So now, when you stand idle, even for a moment, you feel not peace, but restlessness. Because you define yourself only in terms of what you do, but this comes at a price. Being in a constant state of performance wears you out not only physically, but also mentally. Instead of deserving rest, you see it as an obligation to work harder and harder. And in this cycle, the question, who am I, becomes silent over time. What you need to get out of this situation is not a big change. It's just opening a little space for yourself in the morning, at the start of the day. When everyone else has just woken up, quietly ask yourself, what would be real for me today? Ask yourself what you need to feel, not what you need to do. It could be a 5-minute walk, sitting with a cup of coffee and doing nothing, or noticing an inner thought and not suppressing it. These small choices remind you of yourself not only as an achiever, but also as someone who feels. Because someone who measures their worth only by what they do always leaves their inner world unfinished. But when you dare to feel, that is where true wholeness begins. The 6th sign. No matter how many people you are surrounded by, you always feel a little lonely. You can smile in crowds, you join in conversations, support people, listen to their troubles. But at the end of the day, when you lie in bed, there is a deep loneliness inside you. That feeling comes without a sound. And even when everything seems to be fine, you have actually been feeling lonely for a very long time. This loneliness is not a physical loneliness. It's more of a feeling that nobody understands me completely. It feels as if no one can see your feelings completely, as if no one really knows you. You communicate with people, but you can't connect, because you are so used to suppressing your feelings, to appearing strong, that people now believe that you will not ask for help. And you don't ask for help, because you don't know how to do it. Over time, this loneliness becomes an identity. To be the one everyone leans on, but you can't lean on anyone. A resentment lurking underneath the appearance of strength, a whisper of, I want to be seen too. Recognizing this cycle is the first step to healing, and the way out of this cycle is to be honest with yourself first. Take a few minutes during the day and ask yourself, how am I really doing today? When you start to answer this question honestly, your emotional armor slowly begins to unravel. And then, one more small step. Sharing your feelings with someone else. This could be a friend, a therapist, or just someone you trust. Talking does not make you weak. On the contrary, the deepest bonds are formed between two people who say, I am lonely too. Remember, loneliness is not just a lack, it is a calling. A silent cry to be seen, heard, felt. And the first person to hear it should be you. 7th sign. Overreacting to small things can be a way for repressed emotions to surface. Sometimes something seemingly insignificant affects you in an unexpected way. Someone raises their voice a little and your day is ruined. A plan is cancelled and you feel as if the world is crashing down on you. From the outside it may seem like an exaggeration, but you feel that it comes from a much deeper place, because it is not just a reaction of the moment. It is an outpouring of emotions that have been accumulating inside you, that have been pushed aside, that have never been expressed. The pain you couldn't express at the time, after years of silence, finds you at the most unexpected moments. And you can't even understand what you are angry about, because your anger is not at the present, but at old unspoken wounds. This is where awareness comes in. You can either succumb to these feelings every time, or you can learn to recognize them without judgment. The first step is not to stand up to yourself when you start to react, but to hear yourself. Even asking, "Is this really about the present moment, or has a trace from the past been triggered?" creates an inner breathing space. And in such moments, you don't have to calm yourself down at once. Just staying with the feeling, even watching it without suppressing it, starts to transform its impact over time. Because every feeling needs rest. It is there, even if it doesn't speak. As you give it space, the pressure inside you gives way to lightness. And that's when you slowly begin to understand what you are so offended about. Every anger that begins to dissolve inside you shows you a wound you couldn't touch before. And from there, true compassion is born, first for yourself, then for your past. 8th sign. Your need to analyze everything may actually revolve around an emotion that you cannot control. Are you constantly trying to understand everything? Why people behave the way they do, the intention behind a word, the emotion behind a silence. It's as if the mind is constantly working, always alert, ready to catch every detail. It's not about intelligence or curiosity. It could be a survival mechanism that has developed because of something you used to have no control over. Maybe you grew up in an environment where you never knew what was going to happen, where one moment it was hot and the next moment it was dangerous. And after a while, your brain made the message, "I have to figure it all out so I stay safe," a core belief. But the problem is that trying to figure everything out is exhausting, because some things are only felt, not solved. And this state of constant vigilance leads to distancing from emotions, not getting in touch with them. The sense of control doesn't actually protect you, it leaves you alone. The way to break this mental cycle is to remember to feel, not to think. Ask yourself this question every day. What am I trying to understand right now, and what emotion am I actually avoiding feeling? This question leads to noticing rather than analyzing. And the more you realize, the more you get acquainted with the real emotion underlying the need to control. Maybe fear, maybe anxiety, maybe a feeling of worthlessness. But when you face that feeling honestly, you no longer try to solve the world, but to make space for yourself. True safety lies not in knowing every answer, but in not losing yourself in every question. The 9th sign, constantly thinking, "What if something happens?" may actually be an echo of a past breakup. Sometimes everything seems to be fine, but something inside you always whispers that something will go wrong. That's why you can't relax. You feel like you always have to be prepared. You are afraid that if you forget something, if you miss a detail, everything could fall apart. This constant state of alertness often comes from moments when life teaches you how hard it is to be caught off guard. Maybe one day, someone you never expected hurt you. Maybe everything suddenly changed in a place you trusted. And you learned after that day, "If I don't control, I will get hurt." But over time, this desire for control becomes not a firewall, but an emotional prison. Because thinking about the worst-case scenarios doesn't empower you. On the contrary, it distances you from the present. You find yourself managing possibilities, not living your life. The way to break this cycle is to ask, "What is happening now?" instead of, "What if something happens?" Because the mind tends to carry the pain of the past into the future, but the body always lives in the present moment. So when you feel anxious, just stop. Take a deep breath. Look around you. What is really threatening right now? When you do this often, you realize your mind presents you with bad scenarios, but your body always wants to come back to the present. And when you return to that present moment, the inner tension begins to give way to serenity. The 10th sign. The fact that you are tired but still don't want to disappoint anyone could be the voice of a repressed fear of abandonment. Sometimes you don't want to say no, but you say okay anyway. You don't have the power to help, but you find yourself solving someone's problem. When people ask you for something, even if deep down inside you say, "I can't take it anymore," it is difficult to express it outwardly, because deep inside something says, "If I upset them, they will leave." This is a fear that lies too deep for anyone to realize. There may have been a moment in your childhood when someone close to you distanced you, paid no attention to you, ignored you, and at that moment you have this record in your mind. They didn't like me as I am, so I have to be better. From that day on, being a good person becomes a defense, not a character. No matter what you feel, you stay in it. You put a smile on your face and say, "It's okay." But in the process, you gradually lose yourself. The first thing you can do to break this cycle is this: don't let them leave me, to don't let me leave myself. The next time you find it hard to say no, ask yourself this question: will refusing make me lose or gain me back? And then take one small step. Maybe that day please not someone, but only yourself. Maybe it's saying no. Maybe it's just admitting that you are tired. Whatever it is, try to stay with yourself in the moment. Because people who really love don't leave when you set boundaries. But if you continue to ignore your own boundaries, eventually you will walk away from you. And that can be much more painful than having someone leave you. Sometimes the things you define yourself by are actually walls you have built to protect you. Your need for control, your over-empathy, your hunger for success, or your inability to say no, all of these may have once kept you alive. But if it has become exhausting, isolating, and drowning out your inner voice, you need to stop there. Because the burdens you carry silently can, over time, cause you to get lost in a life that doesn't belong to you. And no matter how good one is to others, unless one makes the connection within oneself, one is incomplete. If even a few of the signs in this video are familiar to you, it is not just a coincidence. It may be a heartfelt call to come back to yourself, because healing doesn't always start with big steps, but with quiet realization, with small questions, by getting reacquainted with yourself without blaming yourself. And remember, you are not alone. There are many people suffering silently, realizing it and looking for a way out. Maybe this video will be the first sign of that exit for you. Don't forget to subscribe to Mindful Sphere, because everything here is for you to understand yourself better. And if this video made you feel something, just write in the comments, "I realize it now." Sometimes one sentence touches another heart. Take care of yourself. I mean it. Because you deserve to be good not only to others, but also to yourself.